Clara stood alone in the dimly lit room, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The soft glow of the setting sun filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows that danced across the walls, but none could penetrate the thick fog of grief that enveloped her. She had always been the caretaker, the glue holding her family together. Yet, in this moment, she felt more like a fragile vase, cracked and teetering on the edge of a shelf, ready to shatter at the slightest touch. Her heart ached not only from the loss of her father, but also from the lingering resentment towards her brother Max. They had once shared everything, secrets, laughter, and dreams, but a betrayal had turned them into strangers, leaving an unbridgeable chasm between them. Before we dive deeper into Clara's journey, I want to take a moment to ask you to subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us and is the lifeblood that allows these heartfelt stories to reach more people. So please, take a moment and hit that subscribe button now. As Clara brushed a stray tear from her cheek, she recalled the day everything had changed. It was a sunny afternoon when her world was turned upside down. She had come home early, her heart fluttering with excitement to surprise her husband, only to find him entwined in a passionate embrace with Max's ex-wife, a betrayal that shattered her trust and left her reeling. The aftermath had been a whirlwind of accusations, blame, and hurtful words, as if each sibling had become a mirror reflecting the other's pain. Their once unbreakable bond crumbled, replaced by silence that echoed through the years. Now, standing at the threshold of their father's funeral, Clara felt the familiar pang of resentment bubble up within her. Max had chosen to distance himself instead of standing by her in her darkest hour. How could he? Didn't family mean anything? The thought of seeing him again filled her with dread. She had built walls around her heart, and though she yearned for the days when they had laughed together, the betrayal had left her unwilling to let anyone in. As she entered the funeral home, the somber atmosphere weighed heavily on her. Family and friends gathered, their faces etched with sorrow, but Clara felt detached from it all. It was as if she were watching her life unfold from behind a glass wall, unable to truly connect with the emotions swirling around her. The soft murmur of condolences and the faint sound of a violin playing a mournful tune created a backdrop to her thoughts, each note reminding her of the love her father had poured into their lives. Then, in the corner of the room, she saw him, Max. He looked older, the lines on his face deeper, evidence of the years spent apart. The sight of him stirred a mix of emotions within her: anger, sadness, and an unexpected flicker of longing. She had hoped to avoid him, to keep the past buried beneath layers of grief, but fate had other plans. As if sensing her gaze, he turned, their eyes locking for a brief moment that felt like an eternity. Clara's heart raced, and she quickly looked away, afraid of what might happen next. Just then, a hush fell over the room as the officiant began speaking. Clara's mind drifted back to the days of their childhood, the moments spent in joyous laughter and shared adventures. She remembered the countless times they would build forts in the living room, their imaginations running wild. But those memories were clouded by the betrayal, and the thought of how easily their bond had been severed felt like a knife twisting in her gut. As the service progressed, she felt a strange sense of unease wash over her. It was as if the air crackled with unspoken words, a tension that hung heavily between her and Max. Finally, as the ceremony came to a close, she found herself caught in a moment of vulnerability. Max approached her, his expression earnest, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope that perhaps they could mend what had been broken. "Clara," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, yet it resonated in her heart. "I'm so sorry for everything." The sincerity in his eyes took her by surprise, and for a heartbeat, her defenses faltered. She had imagined this moment countless times, but nothing could have prepared her for the raw honesty in his apology. The resentment that had held her captive began to dissolve, replaced by confusion and a deep-seated longing for connection. I don't know what to say," Clara stammered, her voice shaking. "You were supposed to be there for me." Max nodded, his expression pained. "I know, and I failed you. I was so caught up in my own hurt that I didn't see yours. I should have stood by your side. I should have been a brother." His words pierced through the walls she had built around her heart. Clara felt the tears welling up again, but this time they were different. They weren't just tears of sadness. They were tears of release, of the possibility of healing. It hurt, Max. It hurt so much. I lost my husband, and I lost my brother all in one moment. I can't change the past, he said, his voice cracking. But I want to try to make things right. I want us to be siblings again. I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. Clara looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of insincerity, but all she saw was remorse and a genuine desire to reconnect. The years of silence, the pain, and the resentment began to fade as she took a deep breath, contemplating the possibility of forgiveness. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way back to each other. As they stood there, two wounded souls in a sea of shared grief, Clara felt the first glimmers of hope. In that moment, something shifted within her, a realization that perhaps their father's love was strong enough to bridge the gap that had grown between them. With a tentative step forward, she felt the weight of her grudges begin to lift, replaced by a fragile sense of unity. It was a small step, but in that moment, Clara knew it was the beginning of something profound, a chance to heal, to forgive, and to honor the bond of family that had been tested but not broken. Together, they could navigate the rocky path ahead, honoring their father's memory while rediscovering the strength that lay in their siblinghood. Clara hesitated for a moment, her heart battling with her mind. The urge to retreat, to shove her feelings deep down and shield herself from further pain, was strong. Yet, as she looked at Max, she saw the man who had once been her closest ally, her confidant, and her brother. The years of silence echoed loudly between them. Yet in this shared moment of grief, a flicker of understanding ignited within her. "Maybe we can start with just talking," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet, but I think I'm willing to try." Max's face lit up with a mixture of relief and gratitude, the weight of years spent apart and the burden of guilt lifting slightly from his shoulders. "That's all I ask, Clara. Just a chance to show you that I've changed, that I want to be a part of your life again." As the funeral concluded and family members began to mingle, Clara took a step back from the crowded room, her heart racing. She found a quiet corner where the memories of childhood began to flood back, overpowering the pain that had dominated her thoughts for so long. She remembered the whispered secrets shared beneath the covers during sleepless nights, the laughter echoing in the hallways of their home, and the unbreakable trust that had once existed between them. "Do you remember that summer we built the treehouse?" Clara asked, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "We thought we were invincible up there, like nothing could ever tear us apart." Max chuckled softly, the sound warming the air between them. "Yeah, and we got in so much trouble when Dad found out we had used the good wood from the shed. I thought he was going to kill us." Clara smiled, the memory easing some of the tension that had been so palpable just moments ago. "But he just laughed and helped us finish it. He always believed in us. Because he knew how strong we were together," Max replied, his tone turning serious again. "I let you down when you needed me the most. I should have been there, but I let my own problems cloud my judgment. I was angry, not just at you, but at the situation, and I took it out on you. I never should have distanced myself." Clara could feel the vulnerability in Max's admission. It mirrored her own feelings of regret for the years lost to anger and misunderstanding. It was so hard losing everything at once. "I needed my brother, and you were nowhere to be found. It felt like you chose sides, like I was fighting this battle alone. And I hate that I made you feel that way," he responded, his voice thick with emotion. "I never meant to choose anyone over you. I was just too hurt to see the bigger picture. I realize now that family should always come first, no matter what. I should have reached out to you, but I didn't know how. I was scared." Clara felt the walls around her heart begin to crumble. She understood that fear all too well, the fear of vulnerability, of being hurt again. But in that moment, she also recognized the importance of allowing herself to be open. "I was scared too, Max, scared of what might happen if we faced the truth of our situation. It's easier to blame each other than to confront the pain we both felt." The air between them shifted, filling with the weight of shared burdens and unspoken regrets. Clara took a deep breath, feeling lighter as she exhaled the pent-up emotions that had suffocated her for so long. Maybe we can start by remembering the good times. Perhaps that's the first step? Absolutely, Max agreed. Let's talk about all those summer days, the adventures we had, and how we used to dream about our futures. We can rebuild that connection if we focus on what once brought us together. As they began to reminisce about their childhood adventures, Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. The laughter they shared, albeit bittersweet, began to bridge the gap that had formed over the years. She could feel the warmth of a tentative reconciliation blooming, and with it came the realization that their father would have wanted them to find their way back to each other. In the weeks that followed, Clara and Max began to meet regularly, each visit filled with laughter, tears, and the slow rebuilding of trust. They would sit in the living room of Clara's house, cups of coffee in hand, sharing stories that often led them down memory lane. They spoke of their father's love, of how he had nurtured their bond, and how it had been a beacon of light in their darkest moments. One afternoon, as they flipped through an old photo album, Clara paused at a picture of their father holding them both, pride radiating from his smile. "He always believed in us," she said softly, her fingers tracing the outline of his face in the photograph. "He would want us to forgive each other." Max nodded, his expression solemn. "He would, and I think he would be proud that we're trying." "Do you think we can ever truly move past the hurt?" Clara asked, the question lingering in the air. "I believe we can," Max replied, his voice steady. "It's not going to be easy, and it will take time. But if we work together, we can honor his memory by rebuilding our relationship. We owe it to him, and we owe it to ourselves." As they continued to talk, Clara felt a sense of catharsis wash over her. Each conversation peeled back layers of resentment that had built up over the years, revealing the love that had always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. She found herself laughing more, the sound echoing in her home, a melody that had been absent for far too long. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Clara turned to Max. "You know, I've missed you. I didn't realize how much until now." "I've missed you too, Clara," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "It feels good to reconnect. I wish it hadn't taken so long, but I'm grateful for the time we have now." Their conversations began to shift, moving from nostalgia to hopes for the future. They talked about their lives, their aspirations, and the families they wanted to build. Clara shared her desire to start anew, to find joy in the small things again, while Max spoke of his dreams of becoming a father one day, wanting to create a loving environment for his future children. These discussions sparked something within Clara, igniting a passion she had thought was lost forever. She felt a renewed sense of purpose and a longing for connection, not just with Max, but with the world around her. The wall she had built began to feel less like a fortress and more like a protective shell, one that was finally beginning to crack. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to comment from where you are hearing this amazing story. Amidst the laughter and the vulnerability, Clara began to see the beauty in their shared history. There was healing in their conversations, a promise of brighter days ahead. And as they sat in the fading light, she realized that the journey toward forgiveness was not just about letting go of the past. It was about embracing the future they could create together. With each passing day, Clara and Max continued to strengthen their bond, weaving their lives together once more, guided by the love of the father they both cherished. They were determined to honor his memory by being the siblings he had always believed they could be, united in their resolve to move forward, hand in hand. As they sat in the fading light, Clara felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a sensation she hadn't experienced in years. It was as if the love that had once defined their relationship was slowly returning, filling the empty spaces left by resentment and grief. "You know," she said, her voice steady, "I've always wanted to travel. Dad used to talk about taking us on road trips, visiting national parks, and exploring the world together. I think it might be time to finally do that." Max's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That sounds incredible. We could plan a trip in his honor, visit those places he loved. We could even take a road trip across the country." just like old times. Clara smiled at the thought, envisioning the two of them in a car, laughter spilling out like the warm summer breeze. Do you remember the way he would sing off-key to every song on the radio? I hated it back then, but now I'd give anything to hear him again. Me too, Max replied, his voice tinged with nostalgia. But we can create new memories. Let's make this trip a celebration of our father's life and the bond we're rebuilding. In the weeks that followed, Clara and Max pored over maps, choosing destinations and planning their itinerary. Each decision brought them closer, as if they were stitching together the fabric of their relationship, one shared adventure at a time. They laughed over old inside jokes and reminisced about their childhood. The lightness of their banter, a welcome reprieve from the heaviness that had once defined their interactions. The day of the trip arrived, and the excitement buzzed in the air like static electricity. Clara felt a giddy thrill as she packed the car with snacks, blankets, and a carefully curated playlist of their father's favorite songs. Max arrived with a camera in hand, determined to document every moment. "This is going to be our best adventure yet," he declared, grinning as he slid into the passenger seat. As they hit the open road, the landscape transformed around them, each mile a step away from the past and a leap toward healing. They sang along to the tunes that echoed through the car, the familiar melodies weaving a tapestry of memories. Clara glanced at Max, who caught her eye and smiled, a genuine smile that spoke volumes about their newfound connection. Their first stop was a national park their father had often mentioned. As they wandered the trails, the beauty of nature enveloped them, the towering trees standing as guardians of their memories. Clara breathed in the fresh air, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. "It's beautiful here," she remarked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is," Max agreed, his gaze sweeping over the landscape. "I can almost hear Dad's voice, telling us to appreciate every moment." As they explored, they found themselves sharing stories that had long remained unspoken. Clara opened up about her struggles in the wake of the betrayal, while Max confessed the guilt that had gnawed at him for years. Each revelation brought them closer, erasing the distance that had once felt insurmountable. Later, as dusk settled and the sun dipped below the horizon, they set up camp, the crackling fire illuminating their faces. Clara felt a surge of gratitude for this moment, for the chance to reconnect with her brother under the starlit sky. They roasted marshmallows, the gooey sweetness reminiscent of their childhood camping trips, laughter punctuating the night air. "Do you remember the time we got lost in the woods?" Max asked, chuckling. "I thought we were going to be stuck out there forever." Clara laughed, shaking her head. "And Dad wasn't even worried. He just followed the trail until he found us. He always knew we'd be okay. Just like now," Max said, his tone turning serious. "I'm glad we're doing this, Clara. I feel like we're finally finding our way back to each other." The fire crackled softly, and Clara gazed into the flames, absorbing the warmth that radiated from both the fire and her brother's words. "Me too. It feels good to be here with you, to remember what we had and to build something new." As the stars twinkled overhead, Clara felt the healing power of their shared experiences enveloping her. It was a reminder that sometimes the most profound changes come from the willingness to let go of past hurts and embrace the possibility of forgiveness. The next day, they continued their journey, each destination bringing them closer to the heart of their father's legacy. They visited museums, historical sites, and parks, each stop a testament to the adventures they had dreamed of sharing. With each photograph Max snapped, Clara felt the weight of years of resentment dissipating, replaced by a newfound appreciation for the bond they were rebuilding. One evening, as they sat by a lake, Clara reflected on how far they had come. "I never thought we could get here," she said softly, watching the water ripple under the fading light. "It's like we're writing a new chapter of our story." Max nodded, his expression contemplative. "We are. And I think Dad would be proud of us. He always believed in the strength of family, and we're finally honoring that." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Clara felt the last remnants of resentment fade away, replaced by a profound sense of peace. She turned to Max, her heart full. "Thank you for being here, for making this journey possible. Max reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Thank you for allowing me back into your life. I promise to always be here from now on." Their eyes met, and in that moment, they both understood that while the scars of the past might never fully disappear, they had the power to redefine their future. Together, they were forging a new path, one built on love, understanding, and the unwavering bond of family. As they continued their adventure, Clara realized that the journey of healing was not just about the places they visited, but about the moments they shared, the laughter, the tears, and the unbreakable connection that had always existed between them. They were siblings, bound by blood and love, and nothing could sever that bond again. With each mile they traveled, Clara felt lighter, as if the burdens of the past were being left behind on the roadside. They were rewriting their story, one filled with hope and renewal. And as the sun set on their journey, Clara knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful chapter in their lives.